Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of No More Kids in Scientology. In today's episode, you guys, we're going to be reacting and corroborating a corporate media program called Scientology Exposed, RPF child labor prison camp, on the Today Tonight investigation, an investigation done 14 years ago. And we're going to be talking about the RPF, the Rehabilitation Project Force, Scientology's most punitive, most disgusting, most dehumanizing torture, where children were systemically placed there to be punished, including myself. No child can ever consent to be enslaved in the Rehabilitation Project Force or Scientology's Sea Org. The RPF is not just a program. It's a prison camp designed to break the human spirit and subject a child to such an environment is nothing short of barbaric. The notion of consent hinges on the ability to make informed, voluntary decisions, something inherently impossible for a child. Children lack the cognitive maturity and life experience necessary to grasp the full weight of their choices, particularly in the face of manipulation and coercion, which run rampant inside the Scientology hotels. My own experience as a minor in 1996 underscores the inherent cruelty of such a system. I was thrust into an environment that was not just punitive, but utterly dehumanizing. Adding to the horror, I was made the so-called twin of a self-admitted PDF file who was sent to the program to redeem himself. I, a minor, was given to him, supposedly to rehabilitate him. In what world is this considered acceptable? In the world of the Scientology hotels. The RPF is a place of relentless physical labor, psychological torment, and absolute control. It masquerades as a form of rehabilitation, but in reality, it operates with the sole purpose of breaking individuals down. The conditions were grueling: long hours of backbreaking work, restricted communication with the outside world, inadequate sleep, and constant tortures. As a child, I was subjected to these horrors, stripped of my freedom and dignity. The psychological manipulation within the RPF is insidious. Children, already vulnerable, are particularly susceptible to these tactics. We were isolated, tortured, enslaved, and made to believe that our suffering was our own fault. The constant fear, the unending labor, and the torture sessions were designed to erase any semblance of autonomy or resistance. This is not just abusive, it's a systemic violation of human rights. International human rights standards are clear. Children must be protected from economic exploitation, hazardous work, and any activity that interferes with their education and well-being. And the RPF violates every single one of these principles. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child emphasizes the need to shield children from such harm. And yet, within the walls of the Scientology hotels, hosting their RPF programs, enslaving children, these rights are trampled. The moral and ethical outrage here is profound. Scientology claims to champion personal freedom and enlightenment, yet it runs a program that embodies the complete opposite. Subjecting children to such inhumane treatment is a grotesque abuse of power. It is a betrayal of the fundamental duty of care that every society owes its young. Yet in America, they have decided to make child slavery great again via Scientology hotels. No child can consent to any of this. The very idea is a mockery of true consent. The RPF's coercive, brutal nature makes it impossible for a child to freely choose anything. It is a stark reminder of the depths of cruelty that can be hidden behind the facade of the Scientology hotels that Debbie Cook was running, that Debbie Cook was sending children to, that Debbie Cook was being kept informed on a weekly basis of what child were being abused inside her disgusting gulag torture prison. My own ordeal is a testament to this unforgivable abuse. And it is imperative that society recognizes and condemns these actions, ensuring that no child ever endures such suffering again. So here we are on the flip side, guys. Here we are on the flip side of discussing this corporate media investigation done 14 years ago, and yet not a shred of guardrails have been implemented to help any kid inside of the Scientology hotels. As of the year 2024, every single thing that we discuss happened to us as minors, as children, is still being done to other kids as we speak. So please keep that in mind for all of you who really want to go, oh my God, but you know, I heard they really changed. I heard that they really don't do the RPF anymore. I heard that, you know, children are not being abused. L. Ron Hubbard's directive was loud and clear. Abuse the children, make them fair game, make all of these adults donate their kids so they all collectively can abuse children and get away with it. That's the club. That's the club where all Scientology parents belong. All they need to do is sacrifice their own kids, and then they get a free-for-all for any other kids they want to abuse inside of these hotels, where the Clearwater Police is perfectly happy this is happening, where the Tampa Bay Times is perfectly happy this is taking place on a daily basis, where the American media couldn't be more complicit in laundering with soap and bubbles the image of the adults who took possession of children, underage kids, trafficked by their own parents into disgusting tortures. So let's really react and see what in the literal hell is happening here, since 14 years have gone. And really, let's see what's reported.
But now to the secret compound that's been labelled degrading and inhumane, with allegations of men, women and children being kept virtual prisoners, working full-time and living in appalling conditions. And the incredible
Men, women, and children. And yet again, we're going to make this distinct point. Men and women that are of age to consent have the right to relinquish all their freedoms, all their civil liberties, anything, to be degraded, to be tortured, to be enslaved. That is a right that all women and men of age have. That is not a right that any child has, given their inability to consent. It couldn't be more clear who the victims are, but yet we're having to underline and underscore the obvious, because we're living in a society, a two-faced society. Out of one side of their mouth, America claims, Australia claims to be all about the rule of law, to be all about, oh, child trafficking is very illegal, you guys. We really wouldn't want to do it. Oh, yeah, let's write all these laws that really say to not abuse children. Oh, yeah, we couldn't be more amazing nations really doing amazing things. And yet, all these kids get abused inside what these nations are hosting for themselves. So before everybody gets really confused as to, oh, who did it? It's the governments of these child trafficking institutions that are state sponsoring the depravities. As of the year 2024, there's not a goddamn person in this entire world working in any of these governments that has done a shred to stop the unfettered access to underage kids that all Scientology parents signed up to be abused inside these hotels. So let's make sure that that's clear, because apparently it's not clear. Apparently everyone's very confused. So let's unconfuse all the idiots that cannot see what's so obvious.
Incredible thing is, it's right in the middle of a suburban neighbourhood. Here's Brian Seymour with this world-exclusive report with those who've escaped and are now speaking out.
Yeah, the incredible thing is right here in the Suburban. Where in the hell do you all think the Scientology hotels operate? In Clearwater, they're right there in the middle of their downtown. The Henda Gardens is right there in suburban Clearwater, trafficking, abusing underage kids 24/7, 365. So where are these Scientology compounds hiding what in the hell they're doing? The LAPD is very, very happy about all the trafficking that takes place inside the commercial buildings, such as Celebrity Center, such as the Blue Building. The LAPD is just literally so fraternizing that they couldn't give a damn that they are supposed to be enforcing laws that they have on the books that act as platitudes. But yes, all of these centers, all of these torture centers are not hidden in some dungeon where no one can see it. It's right there in the middle of suburbia, being state-sponsored by these governments in the United States, in Australia, in Germany, in Mexico, in Spain, in every single last goddamn country hosting these depraved child traffickers and child abusers. Plenty of countries are in on it. Plenty of countries are on the side of playing dumb to host hotels, commercial buildings where adults can, including but not limited to, pay to abuse a child, pay to be owed time with an underage child inside of the hotel. And before all of you think, oh yeah, but maybe nobody knows, everything is video recorded. So the FBI couldn't be more ridiculous and idiotic for not knowing. We've already covered this with Epstein. This is Epstein on steroids. This is every single auditing room is video recording. Every single hallway is recording. Everything we're saying has been recorded by our abusers. There's not a goddamn allegation we can make that has not been recorded by them when we were there. So before everybody goes, oh yeah, but this happened so long ago, it doesn't matter. It's happening to kids as we speak. It couldn't be more irrelevant that the abuse happened 4 decades ago, 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago, 2 weeks ago. We already covered the Scientology mother that, 6 weeks ago was posting how you should have, your 2-year-old broom your house, wash your dishes, offload that to your 3-year-old do the laundry to the 5-year-old, and, dinner to the 6-year-old. So none of these extremists believes that these adults are paying to believe, fully consenting grown adults that pay to believe whatever depravity they want to believe for themselves. As long as they get what inside of these hotels? Oh yeah, unfettered access to minors, thanks to the US government, thanks to the IRS, thanks to the LAPD, thanks to the Clearwater PD, thanks to the, LA Times, thanks to the Tampa Bay Times, thanks to all the enablers and image launderers that have made child trafficking great again, that had made child slavery a thing in this year 2024. This crime didn't happen in a vacuum. This criminal racketeering scheme didn't just prop itself up with no one knowing jack shit. So let's make sure that that's very, very clear, because 14 years later, nothing has been done at all to help a shred of child being abused by Scientology parents and the people running these disgusting, depraved hotels.
This is the Australian prison.
Right there, you're telling me kids, adults, foreign nationals are kept there, basically held prisoner, right here in the heart of Sydney, pretty much.
I lived in the garage for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
G'day, it's Brian Seymour from Today Tonight at Channel 7 and a couple of guests. Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you.
Shane's story is one of shocking abuse, child abuse. It's one of a child being enslaved.
There it is, hiding in...
Is one of many children being enslaved. As if Nora wasn't put through this. As if I wasn't put through this. As if Sergio Oblinsky wasn't put through this. The RPF was a standard operating program that these people ran. They weren't afraid of it. They were not using it. They were not like, let's not use it. Let's just use it with one single child. The examples of children being sent to these disgusting programs were too many to literally count. And you can ask all the Scientology executives, how many children did you send to those gulag disgusting programs? A la Marty Rathbun, who was the one that sent the self-admitted pedo to the program. So they couldn't be more up to their neck and ears in complicity of running this racketeering child trafficking scheme across state lines, across countries, across everywhere. Because the stench of L. Ron Hubbard's shit has penetrated the nostrils of every IRS agent that sees religion whenever this word is propped up. Of every law enforcement agent that sees religion, we were told this was very religious. Stop being told. Law enforcement agencies of these United States, stop being told what it is and investigate for your damn selves. Get some of your own evidence already. These people have hooked you the F up. Guess what? They've kept it all on video. They kept it all transcribed. So it's very easy for y'all to decide who's telling the truth. Is it the children that were abused, or is it the monsters that were abusing them? A la Mike Rinder, a la Debbie Cook, a la Sue Gentry, a la Angie Trent, a la Angie Blankenship, a la all these grown adults that were there recruiting, acting in a conspiracy, working as a team, knowing what each other was doing and thinking and coordinating thereby and therewith. Since that's how these hotels were running, they couldn't be more implicated up to their neck and ears. But, let's have America play dumb. For how many more decades does America want to play dumb? Since y'all are the ones that exported this bullshit to Australia. And Australia, how many more decades do y'all want to play dumb, since y'all are the ones who normalized it first? The legal precedent was set in Australia. Scientology was granted religious status in Australia first. Home country of who? Oh yeah, Mike Rinder. So Mike Rinder's personal country is where the legal groundwork was set so they could abduct children. So thank you, Australia, for normalizing child trafficking in mass. We have y'all's disgusting country, y'all's country that, really wants to do what? Purport that you really are civil, as if this vermin has not proliferated all over your entire country. So thanks to you in Australia, children are being abused all over the world. So just keep that in mind for the people in Australia that are, subsidizing this with their taxpayer dollars.
In plain sight, a compound in the middle of suburbia, a place.
The compound in the middle of suburbia, this looks like exactly like the Hacienda Gardens, you guys. Literally, Debbie Cook had this exact same prison set up in the Hacienda Gardens. So they have the prison set up in the Hacienda Gardens, Clearwater. They have the setup in, California. They have the setup in AOSH UK in the United Kingdom. They have the setup also in Copenhagen. They have the setup all over the world.
Place where children and adults are said to be punished and corrected in awful ways. Shane Kelsey is 21 years old. Until just over a year ago, he had never used the internet.
Yeah, none of us had used the internet. None of us had been able to understand what world we were living in, since we were being kept as slaves, unconsenting slaves of disgusting adults that they were having their way with us. And they're still having their way with children as we speak. So before anybody goes, oh yeah, but this happened so long ago, it's happening as we speak.
Television or followed the media.
You're not allowed to read any books other than Scientology books. You can't read newspaper, no radio, no movies, nothing.
Shane says he was held captive and groomed to see all of us on the outside as pathetic, useless, stupid.
So I lived in a garage until they got flooded by a storm. And my mum got really pissed off and said, what the hell? And so I got moved into a closet. It is a closet under the stairs.
So you really can understand the type of living conditions that these people are in. The conditions are appalling, disgusting. I can't even begin to tell you how disgusting the Florida Hacienda Gardens was. Mildew all over the place. Disgusting flooring, disgusting carpet. Everything smelled disgusting. All the adults, grown adults, locked up with underage minors, having to shower in front of all of these adults. Disgusting. And yes, Debbie Cook knew about every single aspect of this prison because she and all the RTC reps loved their little power trips of let's really send people to a prison that we run and let's really play like we are the ones that really can enforce a law in these United States while we break all the laws. So those are the Scientology executives breaking every single law that exists because inside of their lawless hotels, there are no laws except for their bullshit, infantile, delusionary daddy figure. L. Ron Hubbard really told us. L. Ron Hubbard really did say to do this. So imagine being those idiots that as of the year 2024 have not repudiated what they were told by their daddy figure to go do, where they relinquished their critical thinking skills to subjugate themselves as full consenting grown adults that they all were to participate in this culture of child abuse at scale. So continue to confront evil because thanks to the corporate media, no one's confronting a shred of evil when it comes down to Scientology. Thanks to the corporate media, everything has been laundered and washed and cleaned and wiped. So that this idea that, children and adults are the same are still It's still a thing. There's not a single media outlet that has stood out for children. There's not a single one of them. They're all just, we were told by this one person, and then, we dropped the investigation. How much money has the corporate media made for the so-called installments that they were really doing to hold these people accountable? And yet they always miss their withhold. Imagine being that pathetic that all the investigators combined all missed what was being done inside of these hotels. All were buying what they were told by the abusers that exited the hotel. I mean, imagine how ridiculous and pathetic they all really have to be. Imagine how idiotic they really have to be. But, imagine how corrupt they really have to be, because, they are cashing checks. They're cashing a lot of checks to media. Oh, yeah, let's really talk about Tom Cruise, and let's really talk about Shelley Miscavige, and let's really talk about all these clickbait items that they flooded the airwaves with to distract from the real story, which is children being abused, children being turned into slaves without the ability to consent. And thanks to the media, who does go and cradle and canoodle grown-ass adults that made those decisions, grown-ass adults that were the recruiters and the child traffickers, a la Debbie Cook, a la Mike Rinder, a la Marty Rathbun, a la all these people that have gotten, the cradle and canoodle treatment from the media to be like, oh, so you were just abused? That's all that happened to you? We really want to hear about your abuse as a grown adult. Oh, we really want to hear about your experience. So that's who you have to thank for all of this unhinged, disgusting, systemic abuse to continue. Because who is the enablers? This is an environment that requires enablers. These are not hotels that can just run on their own because everyone is what? Doing their job?
Stairs, maybe 2 meters long and 1 meter wide.
This is the true Australian headquarters of the Church of Scientology. In the Sydney suburb of Dundas lies the RPF base. It stands for Rehabilitation Project Force. It's where Scientologists are sent for punishment and training for crimes that most of us would regard as trivial.
And see, there it is. A lie that the media is saying. Because, again, yes, some of the crimes can be considered trivial. I mean, I was sent there because I wasn't completing people on the course, on the metering course, and I failed to do my job and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that seemed very trivial. But how about Marty Rathbun sending the self-admitted pedo there? And how about Pat Breha? That was another self-admitted pedo. And how about Doug Long? That was another one that was doing CP, child porn. And how about, Jaime Avila, that was, a peeping Tom looking inside of minors' rooms? How about so many of these perverts were there for no minor crimes, for full-blown state federal offenses that they were getting hooked up by the Scientology executives to, launder, put a little bubble, put a little soap, put a little floating needle, put a little L. Ron Hubbard, and then all of a sudden, the what? They were rehabilitated. Thank God I didn't finish the program with that self-admitted pedo. I never said he was rehabilitated because he wasn't. He was abusing me the whole time he had me. So in what world was he really rehabilitating himself while still being enabled by Scientology by providing a minor for him to abuse on a daily basis? So really start connecting dots, because the dots have not been connected by corporate media that really goes, oh, they were just being sent there for stupid reasons and for full-blown felonies. So you have the two extremes. The other being sent there for stupidity, for completely made up nothing, or for full-blown felonies. That's how dysfunctional these people are. That's how pathetic they are. That's how full of themselves they are. Because all they give a fuck about is, oh, did L. Ron Hubbard say that? Okay, let's all just do it. They couldn't be more ridiculous. They couldn't be more stupid. And they couldn't be more wanting to do the criminal activity, as if all of these hotels are not what? Propped up? Who's propped them up? Who has put these centers to operate? They're not operating them by themselves. They're not operating just because David Miscavige, the one and only. That's the BS glib pitch all the executives want you to believe. Let's just blame it all on David Miscavige, and we all had such great intentions until David. They all had the same part of the accountability on the racketeering child trafficking scheme, as they were all personally abusing minors like Debbie Cook, Ghislaine Maxwell on steroids, Debbie Cook. That, once again, for those who haven't seen my video on Debbie Cook, she's the one that, cashes checks to shut the F up. Because you know what? She really wanted to save our world by torturing children. Right, Debbie Cook? Start making that make sense real quick. Start typing something. It's been a while since you have typed a single shred of letter, Debbie Cook.
They promised us someone would come and talk to us. That hasn't happened. I couldn't get through on the phone. More than 50 requests for interviews on camera have been flatly refused. The bottom line is they don't want people to know what's going on inside there. Those who've lived in there, like Shane, say it's like a gulag, a prison. And yet these are ordinary houses. This could be any suburb in Australia. People here would be horrified to know what has been going on in there for so many years and continues to this day.
So, yes, you guys, we should be horrified. We should be appalled. And yet, no amount of fake outrage since this air 14 years ago has made a dent of difference for kids ending up recruited, ensnared, child trafficked, and abused inside of the Scientology hotels. So I want you all to really keep that in mind as we continue reacting to this disgusting, abominable practice of sending kids to a prison camp, a practice that was fully alive and well. All thanks to Debbie Cook while she was running the hotel where I was locked up for 2 years, locked up with a disgusting self-admitted pedophile. Those were my formative years. Yes, my parents knew that I was in the RPF. Yes, my parents didn't give an F. My parents didn't come to save nothing. Scientology parents are complicit in the child trafficking. They're complicit in the crime. The crime doesn't happen without your parents grooming you, preparing you, and thinking that everything is wonderful and great when you are being abused as a child and you don't understand what in the literal hell is actually going on. So thank you for listening. We will continue to react to this subject. And I will see you guys all very soon. Thank you. Bye.